Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Good afternoon, good morning. I am excited to be presenting to you once again. My name is Matt Allison, Cloud Solutions Consultant here at D&H, and today we are going to be discussing a topic that is near and dear to my heart. That is the cloud evolution, the cloud business evolution of yours, and specifically discussing the Azure Opportunity. And with us today, in order to discuss this, are two very high, qualified individuals to talk about it. They are Damon Cagerys, who is the Director of Cloud Vendor Management and Operations, and Tiffany Ward, the Director of our Professional Services. Hi, guys. Welcome.
Hi, Matt. Thank you for the introduction.
So before we get into, we definitely want to answer any questions that you might have about the business. We want to kind of make this more of a discussion than anything else, to kind of inform you as to what D&H is doing in terms of putting these opportunities in front of you. But before we get to that, we have a couple of sponsors to highlight. For some reason, there we go. Okay, so first of all, we want to thank all of our sponsors, but specifically Acronis. We want to make sure that you're aware. Acronis has a program that's running until the end of this year, and that is called the Rip and Replace campaign. In a nutshell, what this means is if you have any customers with a competitive product in place today, you know, your Datos, your Veeams, and they have a contract of some kind associated with the service along with that product, Acronis will pay to end that contract early and replace it with their product. So if you have any questions about that, reach out to cloudservices@dnh.com and we can discuss that. We'd love to talk to you about Acronis. Next is Connectwise. They came out with this product, Perch. I'm personally really excited for it. It definitely intersects in our market, in the SMB market, quite a bit more than I would say anything else that Connectwise has done. So I want to make sure it's on all of your radars. This is a SIEM product. This is a security product that's designed for small businesses. So a lot of, like, for example, the Connectwise SIEM product may be something that is a little too expensive or a little too complex to introduce into a lot of smaller businesses. This is to replace that factor, and it is very capable, very powerful on its own. So we have a link here in the slide, of course, but there is a link in the resources to this video right now that will send you to the webcast that was done specifically on that product. We encourage you to check that out. And then finally, Nextiva. So they are a UC, a vendor of ours. So they have, you know, great VoIP options. And there is a payout right now. So if you have any UC, any unified communications opportunities, reach out to cloudsolutions@dnh.com today, and we can talk to you about the money back spiff opportunity, depending on the size of the opportunity itself. So with that said, let's move on to the actual presentation today. And that is talking about the Azure Opportunity. Now, I have some thoughts on this, but before I take up all the time, I want to actually turn this over to Damon. If you want to speak about what we see to be the global market today with infrastructure and specifically with Microsoft Azure.
Sure, Matt, thanks. Appreciate you kicking it off, and hello, everyone. Glad to spend a couple minutes this afternoon with you discussing the Azure Opportunity and how D&H plays a role in to support, you know, your build out of an infrastructure practice through Azure. So when we think about sort of the opportunity, right, and this is from Microsoft, right, at a global scale, you know, this is a massive opportunity, right? When we think about projected market of $623 billion in really what is 2 years from now. The business spend on infrastructure as a service just in the first half of this year was over $92 billion, right? And then lastly, the Azure growth that we're seeing, again, across Microsoft is 50% in somewhat of a mature business, right? At D&H, our numbers, you know, substantially smaller than the global numbers that Microsoft is sharing here. But nonetheless, we are still seeing massive growth within our channel partners. So, we're up well over 350% year on year and growing. And so I think about how much of, sort of infancy stages our channel is and what massive opportunity we have to start moving workloads to the cloud and thinking about how to leverage that technology and platform to make our clients and customers' infrastructure more modern and more efficient. And with that, I think we'll segue into the next slide and talk a little bit about how we think we can help you do that. Mm-hmm. Matt, do you want to add anything to the opportunity? Sorry.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to point out, guys, we're going to be sending out polling questions as we move along here. So just please answer those. Your feedback is really important. But Damon's absolutely right. One of the reasons I got into this business originally was because it was clear, the writing on the wall. The technology business that we all have been potentially doing for decades is turning into a services business. There's no way around it, but there are ways to capitalize on it. There are ways to make the most of this change in our industry. And Microsoft Azure is so flexible in terms of, if you want to jump headfirst into it, they give you all the capability in the world. Or if you just want to dip a toe and get your customers sort of prepared for that migration, Microsoft Azure and essentially the Microsoft platform really does cater to that, as opposed to a lot of the other infrastructure hosts, for that matter, who are pretty much an all-in or nothing sort of factor. So that's what I would say. But obviously, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of question marks in terms of how you do that. How do you move to that next level? So Damon, how is D&H helping the customers do that?
Yeah, so this is obviously a simplified view of how we see D&H at the provider level, supporting our customers, right? And really the strategy is 3 pillars, right? The first is go to market, and I realize maybe somewhat simplified, but it starts with skilling, right? In any new business, the competency piece of it is paramount. We've worked to build partnerships with companies like Skill Me Up that allow for you to easily digest training materials and then execute on those training materials in a sandbox environment. Or if you have a specific competency mapping or track you want to dive into, they offer those services as well. Or our team can walk you through, the Partner Center materials, Microsoft's competency programs, and free training materials that are out there. So it's really something that we can approach a few different ways. But we see it as an absolutely vital step to get started, is starting to immerse yourself in some of that content that we've created, we can expose you to, or we can help you partner with. The next is marketing, right? And so we really leverage our partner services initiative when we look at sort of new marketing efforts like this to start and simplify agency services that we can do on your behalf, right? And so whether it's building an event workshop in a box, it's working on an outbound email campaign, it's working on marketing collateral, partner services can help sort of simplify what the Microsoft developed syndicated content looks like, and then help you sort of customize it with your logo and go to market. And then the last piece of go to market, again, in sort of a simplified view, is our catalog. So when we think about, any new business, right, and Azure's no different, we need to address what our offering is going to look like. I think the difference with Azure is it could be super broad if you allow it. And so what we've done is we've built what we call grab and go solutions, which essentially take very simplified workloads, backup, VMs, storage services, and price them so you can grab and go sell them. Now, that's not to say they are everything for all, opportunities. They're certainly not, but it allows you to take it sort of in a skewed way, market it and sell it like you would any other product or service. Obviously, customization in most cases are required, and that's where I think, as we head into the second pillar, we can also support you with those customized environments. And so the second pillar is opportunity enablement. And when we think about, how we can support you as you evolve that Azure practice, the ability to sort of look at discovery conversations, assess current environments, make recommendations. How do you qualify end customers? How do you build, quote, and price some of these services? Matt and his team do an excellent job of working with partners to help do that. But we also offer third party through Tiffany's organization, Tiffany will give a better overview in a second. But we have it both ways, meaning if you want to use some of our experts and some of the tools that are out there, Microsoft has a tool to do infrastructure and assessments that we can help with. Or if you'd prefer to sort of, partner with an organization that can do that on your behalf, we can work both ways, right? And so it just becomes where you are in your evolution and how you want to go to market with some of those services. But we offer both options. And then the last is delivery and optimization, right? So we manage the order flow, the consumption, the reconciliation, the invoicing, all through our cloud marketplace. We've got some pre-built dashboards, Azure Insights in particular, that give excellent documentation and analysis on what you've deployed in a way to sort of manage and optimize those workloads, and whether that's transferring into RIs or just looking at other cost management exercises. We offer some of those services and reporting, on directly from day one off of our platform. The other option, again, sort of like the second pillar, is to look at a partnership, and we have, service providers that will help you do this through Ready Networks that will manage environment on your behalf. Or if you want to partner with a company like CloudCheckr, who has, will sort of ingest your data and then make recommendations based on the use of those workloads. Again, it's really how do we meet you with where you are in the evolution of building out your practice. So whether that's complementing your services with tools and expertise, whether it's helping you find a partner to work with, or actually helping you find a service provider to deploy and manage those services. We want to be as flexible as possible. And it could be a mix of all of those things, right? You may have, X amount of services that you're comfortable deploying yourself, and you may have other services that you want to work through D&H to find a partner to help you deploy and manage some of those services. So again, it doesn't have to be a one-size-fits-all scenario. So with that, I will kick it over to Tiffany to talk more about some of those services in particular and how we take those to market.
Thank you, Damon. And I think you said it well. We actually promoted our services. I've been on board for a little over a year now, but our main goal was to really try to fill the gaps of all of the partners out there that may not have expertise in certain areas. And the great thing about it is D&H has stood up some services that can really help you not have a lot of overhead expense. So the current slide is around our managed services practice. And as you can see, we have a lot of other managed services, but specifically around Azure and managed infrastructure, I'd like to talk a little bit about today. It can be branded with your branding as if you are doing the services, or it can be but it can be specific to just their infrastructure. So if you do have a managed services practice already and maybe you just don't have expertise in this field, it's a great way to be able to stand up that within your company without a lot of overhead cost. And we know that managed infrastructure is probably one of the most expensive pieces of a customer's business because there is a lot of manpower that has to go behind that. So what we did at D&H was we created this managed services practice to be able to fill those gaps for your customers and also for your business. And then if you don't offer services at all, this is a great way to add additional revenue to your current portfolio to be able to add this type of service to your business. It really does cut down on operational costs and it really increases efficiency. And can optimize support. And then also if techs that are on your bench and they are more of a level 3 technician, but they don't want to answer the phone, we can actually do as little or as much as you want. So we do have a standard managed services portfolio, but if there is some things that you need customized and the escalation point needs to go to you, we can actually do the front end piece of this and actually escalate to your team. So the managed services practice, especially with managed infrastructure, is all a la carte. So it is really customized to the customer's environment. But can be specific also to just Azure. We do have an Azure offering that is just for that specific platform. So that it's a great way to be able to help support your customers after they've made the move from on-prem to the cloud. Another piece that we offer is just our services in general. We do migration work. We can do custom statements of work, or we also have skewed services. So if it's a very simple migration from one platform to the next, we do have skewed services for that to make it really easy to transact. And as Matt mentioned earlier, we do have a great pre-sales group. Matt is one of those, and I'd love for him to talk a little bit about the type of support that he gives to our customers. That it's not a paid engagement. It's actually something that D&H offers every single customer that we have. So Matt, if you could just elaborate a little bit on what you actually do every day, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah, happy to. So we work, my team is primarily focused around Azure. Azure is certainly our bread and butter. It's what we're attempting to get most customers onboarded to. But the reality is we are solutions providers. It's why I pushed for our cloud solutions consultant title, merely because we approach each opportunity from as holistic a point of view as possible, with the expertise that our team has as sort of ammunition, as a way of formulating that solution. And again, like Tiffany mentioned, what we do for you is 100% free. So at any point in time, you can email cloudtech@dnh.com with an opportunity that's been presented to you, a question that you might have about a new service. And this might include Microsoft or third parties. Now, we aren't experts at every single vendor that we have, but we like to consider our group a sort of fulcrum for that expertise, so that we can bring in other people. We do it every day where we have calls with multiple experts in order to really develop out what you're looking to do. Now, this is from a pre-sales perspective. That said, we do get rather technical. So if you're unaware of how to perform or provide a service for a customer, we will get into the weeds with it. We'll figure out what options are available to you, discuss how it's done, provide you resources to enable you, and ultimately that is my team's goal, is to enable you to become more capable of providing these services. Our pro services team is exactly where it needs to be. I love being able to say, well, and also we have this team and they're jack of all trades. They can do it for you. But ultimately, and my personal experience of being in this business for as long as I have, I want to make sure that our SMB market grows. I want to make sure that you guys are being enabled to do things that you weren't able to do yesterday. And so ultimately, that's what our team does. Everything from the initial, everything from initial assessments. We have a lot of free tools that are available to you in order to do that. Using those assessments to schedule and actually perform a migration of those individual assets themselves. And everything from that to integrating it into existing on-prem services and additional cloud options, basically kind of wrapping it all together. So we can absolutely have those conversations with you, but Pro Services takes it to the next level. They're going to hold your hand through the whole process, and they will just do it for you if you don't have the bandwidth for it or something like that. They'll go the next step further too and make sure that it's all deployed and signed off for at the end. What our team is more is just that early first step. Sorry, Tiffany.
Yeah, so that's great. Thank you, Matt. So we do have a lot of support here at D&H that doesn't cost you anything. But if it does move into an engagement where you're like, I just don't want to touch this myself, I don't know enough about it, as a partner, we're more than happy to get in there and actually scope out the project with you, get on a call with your customer, and really ask the pertinent questions that need to be asked to see, if an assessment is needed. Maybe they don't know what workloads can move to Azure and would really need to take a look at their full infrastructure to understand what the best next step would be for them. So we do have the assessments available that can be customized to whatever the environment is. And then if you get into the more complex migrations, we can definitely create a custom statement of work that outlines everything that we would do, and then fully do that service for you. And then we can also sell consulting hours after the fact. So if you need, if your customer needs support moving forward, but don't really want to move into a managed services agreement yet, we can sell, blocks of time where we can assist them with their Azure infrastructure after the deployment has happened. And then that can be consumed as, over months if they need that. And so it can all be transacted on your D&H account, on your net terms account, or whatever it is that you have here at D&H. We can go in as you. We can white label it as your company, or we can be represented as D&H. But we do have Azure certified technicians that do these deployments and are able to help you with anything that you've got when it comes to Azure. I think that this sometimes can be a differentiator for you when you're in a competitive situation where you're just trying to sell the license. If you can give them the full solution, that's really what customers are looking for. They don't want to just buy a product. They want to buy the solution for what their business need is. And here at D&H, our teams come together. We give you that pre-sale support. We help you with the licensing piece. And then after the fact, we can do the migration and then the additional support moving forward. A lot of times they may not think they need managed services afterwards, but I think once everything is deployed, they may believe, may come to the conclusion that they do need that. And so we've got a really great plan in place to be able to support the customers.
I'm not sure if you cut out there, Tiffany, but yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. And I think it's important to address one thing. We did have a question come across here. I think now is a good time to address how are your pro services priced, and how much could our resellers anticipate that they would earn? How many, what kind of margin or what kind of profit dollars would they earn for your services?
Yeah. So, of course, we're in the middle. We're the tiered, we're the middle tier of the layers going through to the end customer. So our margins are very small on these services. It's really a value add to our customers, and typically our customers can put between 20 to sometimes up to 40%. Would be typical services margin on anything that we price for them? That's a
Sounds
great
good.
question because, a lot of times they're like, well, how am I going to make money on this? And we get very, very competitive pricing out there so that we can make sure that you can make the right margin that you need.
Definitely. Yeah, I've personally experienced that with working with your team. Yeah, really pleased with the quotes that they get when then compared to the industry standards for pricing some of these services out. Like you can make quite a lot of money doing that. So thank you very much. Now the next slide that we have, I think is something that Damon wanted to go over, but we did receive another question, Damon. And I think you pretty much already addressed it, but since it's being asked, let's just throw it out there. What is the best way to get into Azure according to Damon Cagerys?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So again, I think that first pillar of the last slide is a good starting point. I would also suggest, a consultation with Matt's team and our team of infrastructure Azure experts. The next step would be obviously looking at, putting pen to paper and a business plan. Do you want to build competency around all areas of this? Do you want to build competency around a particular area of this? And working with our team to flesh out those details, and then obviously putting, the plan into execution, right? And starting with skilling and marketing and sales is a good start. We also have, not mentioned on that previous slide, we've got a Success Path to Cloud program, right? And so it really addresses the functional areas that you need to consider when building out, any cloud business, but could be applicable to an infrastructure business as well. When you think about things like finance and sales and marketing, you're going to have to think about adjusting quotas, right? If you have a sales organization, how do you market these services differently? How do you package them? What is the operational process for which you need to put into things like proration and reoccurring billing, service level agreements, right? So while it does introduce different complexities, we feel like we're well positioned to help you overcome those complexities. And then, again, with complexity, there becomes opportunity, right? And so that's our perspective on it. But I would say, from a getting started perspective, take advantage of the consultative services we offer, take advantage of our free resources, and start that way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm glad you answered the way I wanted you to, which is email me. Email cloudtech@dnh.com. Please just remember that. Any opportunities, any questions, you're wondering, specifically where you can find resources or what training documents are, any questions in general, start at cloudtech@dnh.com. That's what my team is here for, and we're 100% free. So that said, talking about enablement, support services, things like that, let's just kind of talk about this grid real quick. Damon, if you want to address some of these buttons here, I think this is the one I put together. Yeah.
Yes, certainly. And a good visual, we get asked a lot from partners, what does the support model look like? And so within the CSP and direct channel, there are requirements of us as the provider versus a direct relationship with Microsoft. So we find this is a very helpful resource to review with partners, especially as it relates to support when we think about what's available through Microsoft directly in an advanced support agreement. And so that's really what's on the left-hand side of this grid. And then on the right-hand side are the different D&H offered support services, right? So Matt has gone through a bunch of the first column under the D&H side, which is the pre-sales consultation, right? So we do things like, support business hours. Sorry, one sec here. Plans for migration and deployment, boost performance, cost management exercises. If you're looking at post-sales support, right, so service-related issues, that would need to be initiated with Microsoft, we offer a basic level support, just like we do with any of our other cloud services purchased through Microsoft, that essentially handles level 3 escalations, right? So it's up to the channel to take L1 and L2. In basic, we look to the partner to take that on, right? So we are being engaged to support, escalations back to Microsoft. In that, there's, different IRTs in the basic program, which again is not a paid offering. That's something that D&H offers for free. We've got different SLAs than some of our premium support services, right? So a 4-hour SLA in basic, only available through business hours. In the premium service, we're answering the mail 24 hours a day, 1-hour SLA, right? So again, back to the sort of spirit of being flexible and meeting you within what your business needs are. Same foundation for support, right? If the workload, let's say, is not critical, maybe it doesn't require an immediate need, whatever your SLA is with your customer, that's how I would map to the different support program that's offered. And then lastly, that last column is our pro services, right? And so, a mix of these different support services partnered with, internal D&H resources on Matt's team, complemented with our support offering and obviously our professional services team. We meet for somewhat of a fraction of the cost that you'd pay through a premium support agreement. We would check all of those boxes, right? And so it's a good visual to see, where your business priorities and requirements line up when you're looking at, either starting a practice or growing a practice, where some of these needs might lie. So again, that was really the foundation for the slide.
Yeah, well said, Damon. And one thing I would add to that is to just point out to everybody that these two columns here, I think you're seeing my red line there, are 100% free. Those are included with all your Azure and Microsoft CSP purchases through D&H. These are those services that we offer 100% to all of our customers. And if you kind of like mash these bullets together, it gets really close to the $1,000 per month Pro Direct version over here that we're offering for free. The escalations to these plans, excuse me, merely like reduce the IRT and things like that of these existing services that we come out of the gate with. So just wanted to point that out. So thank you. And yes, Rodney, we do have this available in a PDF, so we can absolutely get that out to you as soon as we are done here. And anybody else who is interested in a PDF of this enablement and support breakout, we're happy to send that to you. Email cloudsolutions@dnh.com or cloudtech. Either one of us has it, and we can just send it right out to you. Okay, so the final, this is our last polling question. If you could please answer that. And then finally, I did want to wrap this all up with, because obviously the discussion today has been the opportunity surrounding Microsoft Azure. But as I have alluded to, and as both Damon and Tiffany have talked about, it's not just Azure. And it's something that I stress to every customer I talk to. Azure is a platform to enable cloud services. So that means, remotely accessed, highly secure, subscription-based services. But the reality is that today stretches out to literally everything we do in IT. And that is part of our conversation around everything as a service. The term X as a service, there's a real big opportunity here. I don't want to spend a lot of time. I know we have some questions of yours to get to, but Damon or Tiffany, if you just wanted to talk about how we approach this life cycle of everything as a service, and then we can move on to the Q&A.
Sure. Yeah. So really this slide and the methodology behind this aligns to our X as a Service program. And as mentioned, the back office infrastructure piece is no different. So not that these steps or in the sort of cluster diagram are mandatory, they're more suggestive, right? And so as we look at, okay, selling Azure workloads is one thing, making sure we're capturing the solution opportunity and the margin opportunity is another, right? And so these are more of a way to craft your offering than it is anything else. And so as we sort of make our way around the circle, right, if deploying it is something you prefer to own, then absolutely, own that piece. If it's something you want to partner with D&H and a service provider on, or, protecting it as far as security is concerned, or how you're going to support the workload. So it just gives, sort of suggestive makeup that would ultimately end up being your infrastructure solution. And then as far as the financing is concerned, our X as a Service program can turn, your capital expense one-time purchases, if you want, into a streamlined monthly invoice that would accompany your Azure consumption. So in a hybrid scenario where you have assets or tangible assets on site, be it endpoints in the solution or infrastructure appliances, having that rolled up into a monthly fee is sometimes more palatable for the end customer in that situation than, in other times paying, upfront and then having the consumption roll out over time is certainly another. But again, in the spirit of being as flexible as possible, we find that both options meet the needs of a lot of these opportunities that we're working with partners on.
Yep. Well said. I will say, too, if anybody is interested in learning more about X as a Service, we have a web-based tool that you can use and you can provide to your sales team that kind of helps you work your way down all of the available services and attached products and all that stuff and kind of wrap it up into one big quote. And then you can take that quote and send it straight over to D&H as an order. And it's not just, physical products. It's not just cloud services, but it's also our pro services. So if you wanted to buy 50 notebooks and you wanted every single one of them to have some sort of laser etching on them, for example, and you wanted to have autopilot set them up and you wanted to have a support plan attached to them, all that stuff can be done through one platform. And then you hit a button, it all gets ordered. And there's a lot of other things that I'm forgetting, like how it integrates with your systems and stuff. But the reason I don't remember is because we have an X as a Service team. So please, if you have any questions about it, reach out to X as a Service at dnh.com. I'm pretty sure that's their alias. Otherwise, we'll get you in touch with them. All right, so let's get started a little bit on some of these questions. The one I want to say, Michael, thank you for waiting. I know you sent this pretty early on. I did want to address this. I have a pretty lengthy answer for you, but so I'll just get to it. The question is, can we talk more about like the big Microsoft partners that have already owned or already currently own 45 to 80% of this business, referring to I assume the Azure business, the infrastructure business. Happy to. So my short answer for this is we're well aware of the sort of timeline. The first initial 5 years, let's say, where a lot of these cloud platforms were released, especially AWS, they gobbled up all of the major infrastructure that's out there. All of the big players are already in this industry. That's a fact. That's a reality. And it's something that we still can work with, that you can still profit from. And it's because, there's still a life cycle here. They may, not all of them, obviously the ones that are really dug in deep are going to stick with it, but there are a lot of developers of existing industries and in existing organizations that are looking for a change, or they're hearing about these other options. And migration of existing infrastructure it's what I do every day. It is a very, very common thing. And that's not just going from Google or Amazon to Microsoft, but maybe they were like, let's check out this Azure thing, and they signed up direct, but they just can't afford any of the direct incentives. They don't have the right support plan. They have any number of complaints. Moving existing infrastructure under your umbrella, under your management tier, and also so that the invoicing goes through you, is something that is very streamlined nowadays. Now, I won't go into the details because it's a different methodology depending on the current source of that subscription and that infrastructure. But we have the answers for you, is the bottom line. So don't be afraid of talking to customers that are already in this market and are looking for potential changes. We have found, obviously, there's a huge opportunity in those places. Where we wanted to focus today on this webcast was how to enable those, so yes, it's 45 to 80% of the existing business, but there's a huge hundreds of thousands of organizations that have not even stepped a foot into, hosting their systems in the cloud. So we still know that SMB market and the M, to a big degree of that, are still looking for that option. And that's what we want to enable you to sort of to really kind of wrap your hands around. So that's my question or reaction to, let's talk about, the big Microsoft partners. Tiffany, Damon, I don't know if anything I said there sparked anything you wanted to say. I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, no, I think it's appropriate. I also would I would point out too that it's no different from a lot of the other services that you sell today. I think the enterprise mid-market do make up a substantial portion of the pie, but 10-20% of a $600+ billion TAM is still a lot of opportunity. And I think we'd all be remiss if we didn't at least explore the opportunity, right? And so I think in a modern infrastructure environment, no environment is not a parity type situation, right? And so there are absolutely workloads that can be optimized into the cloud. Whether that's 100% of the infrastructure, I can't say, right? But things like backup and these and storage and I think starting small is really the important step, right? And I think what's to be also recognized about that is that it is somewhat of a mature practice, right? The concept has been proven at the highest level of these companies. And I think SMBs stand to maybe benefit the most when you think about sort of cash flow and available investment to put into their technology infrastructure. Oftentimes, it's not enough, right? And so I think the cloud introduces a new concept to adopt that infrastructure first and sort of right-size the environment and pay over time for what you're using, and as your business grows. And so, yes, I think that the benefit can be realized at all levels of business, but certainly in SMB, I think that concept remains consistent. So again, I wouldn't let the saturated market deter you from investigating whether it's an opportunity within your customer base. I would urge quite the opposite.
Yeah, I would add one of the things that I used to say all the time in all of my cloud presentations, I haven't said for a long time, but it's still applicable, which is, as somebody who's a 2-decade veteran in this industry, I can say this emphatically, that everyone on this call right now, what we offer is a critical part of every one of our customers' businesses. Just as critical as keeping the lights on or making sure the phone bill's paid for or they have running water. And that is a utility. And it's something I think slowly the mentality is changing. But fortunately, at least from a taxes perspective, it already has. If you can convince customers to move their IT services to a service subscription-based, whatever the word I'm looking for, you can talk to them about tax incentives. As simple as that is. Now it's an operating expense for their business, and it only makes more sense to kind of approach IT from that perspective with those incentives in mind.
Yeah, and I'd like to add,
please, Stephanie, yes.
we do have with all of the support that D&H brings to the table, I think that is really a differentiator. A lot of times when you're going to a new customer that you're trying to position, a solution for them, to have, pre-sales, and then also the understanding that if you don't have all the right questions to ask and you don't know enough about it, that you can bring our teams on a call with you to help you sell it. So I think that that's really, and then, if you don't have any of the services stood up already, that you can leverage D&H. So I do think that that's something that would really help you stand apart, and to be able to position this product with your customers.
Well said. Definitely. So going through some of the questions here, and we did already address a lot of this stuff, so I don't really want to repeat, and we are running about 45 minutes, so I like the length right now. Let me just throw one last question at you both, which is, what is your favorite color? No, which is, what training options? So it's something that I talked about initially, that we're going to provide you with resources on how to do some of these things. A lot of those resources are step-by-step instructions, but I think what they're asking is certification or formal training. What options do, if any, do we bring to the table?
Yeah, I'll take it from a Microsoft lens. If you're doing any CSP business today or plan to, attainment of competency needs to be core to your plans, right? Because it is one of the two requirements that you have to achieve their back-end incentive program, which is very meaningful, especially in a recurring business, right? And so that competency isn't, specified. You don't have to have Azure to earn on Azure. You just have to have a competency, right? So from that lens, the D&H team can absolutely help you from requirements, the benefits of the competencies, and then how to and where to attain them from. From just a general training and resources perspective, I think it depends on where you are in your practice development. If you're just getting started, again, I'd go back to have that initial consultant conversation with our team, take advantage of some of the resources we've built already. There are plenty of webinars like this that dive into more technical discussion. There are a lot of free resources out there, but it could be a hassle to sort of weed through them. So allow us to sort of help you do that. I would say then if you're a little further in your evolution and you want or desire to get more specific around a training path, then I would absolutely leverage partnerships that we have, like Skill Me Up, and some of these training facilities, Global Knowledge, that we can help you get very specific on. And there are also a lot of free content Microsoft puts out as well, right? And so we can help you get down and into the area that you want to dig into. But those would be my recommendations on training.
Thank you, Damon. The only other thing that I would add to that that we didn't mention yet, because fully disclosed, it's not anything that's exclusive to D&H, but it is certainly an organization that we've been working a lot with lately, which is a free service that's offered by Microsoft called Block 64. This is something I'm not going to go into too lengthy of a discussion about, but anybody who is familiar with them, they've been very popular when it comes to cloud migrations for a number of years. They were purchased by Microsoft, and they are now a free service that's available to their indirect partner, to the channel, for the right sized opportunity. So just to be clear what that is, if you have any on-prem migrations to the cloud that have 5 servers or 50 users or more, we can leverage their services. And I highly encourage it. It's been a really, really tremendous experience, even from our perspective, each and every time. Now, it does require a longer sales cycle. Make sure that you have at least 4 to 6 weeks before the product needs to be deployed. But what happens is they They go into a full, thorough assessment of that end user's environment. They give recommendations all the way up and down the line that include specific resources within Azure, not just general requirements, but specific VM sizes, security requirements, storage account sizes, and then gives you a general cost of what that might be. We work with you in tandem with that group. At least we have so far. I'm happy to assist all the way along the way in each step, and I highly encourage it. So the reason I want to bring that up is because if you have any sort of trepidations, if you're a little bit unsure about starting that first step, let's get that involved. But it requires, the first step is you guys bringing those opportunities to us so that we can assist you along the way. So that is all we got for Q&As. I want to thank both Damon and Tiffany so much. You guys were awesome. Let me just give you the floor for 30 seconds if you have any last comments you want to make, and then I will wrap this webcast up.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Certainly a pleasure to talk through some of this. Don't be afraid to reach out to any of us. I'll speak for the rest of the group. We're here to help support whichever path you take within this journey, right? So that's sort of high level, broad close, but thank you, and look forward to working more closely as we move forward here.
Yeah, and thank you, Matt. I would like to say that, we've discussed a lot about Azure today on the call, but D&H, a lot of our partners don't know that D&H actually offers a robust portfolio of services from on-site installations, the in-house integrations, and things like that. So we can definitely offer a full solution when it comes to any kind of services that you might need, just really to fill your gaps and to help you offer a more seamless experience to your customer. But if you would like to know more about that or about our Azure services, please reach out to proservices@dnh.com.
Love it. The excellent point, because actually was something I wanted to mention. We have an exclusive autopilot deployment tool, for example, that's a part of our platform that our pro services team can help you with. If you're not familiar with it, it's a deployment tool for endpoint devices. So definitely reach out. They can do a lot of stuff outside of Azure. I know we labored on the Azure topic today. So again, thank you everybody so much. I want to just a couple of announcements. This webcast will be available for on-demand viewing within 24 hours. Check out dnh.com/solutionslab, and it will be posted on there. Usually it's within the first day. So just if you need anybody else to check it out. Our next webcast will be coming next year, obviously. Just make sure to keep an eye on dnh.com/solutionslab for announcements. I don't think they have a title yet, for example, so I don't want to let anything go there. If you have any general questions, you can always email cloud solutions or cloud services at dnh.com. That will go to our whole cloud team, and then, of course, someone will get back to you right away. We have a number of resources that are posted here on 24 that are available to you. We encourage you to check them out. That they include a number of service booklets, actual links to the various websites for the departments we've already discussed, and of course email aliases, which is important in general. So with that said, I think I got through that without stumbling too much. So thank you, everybody. We really, really, really appreciate your time today. We all wish you a happy holiday season, and we will talk to you again in 2022. Have a great rest of your days.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.